What is up? Thanks for checking out this video where we're going to be talking about one mistake that I've made previously when going through a breakup that I think significantly makes our time harder in moving on from it. I'm currently going through a breakup at the moment, so it's a good time to be talking about this because I'm like trying to remind myself as well of not making the same mistakes that I have done previously. You might be watching this and going through a particularly hard time. Breakups are not easy in any way. They're like the breaking of a relationship, of a future that you might think or might have thought that you're going to have with somebody. They're also the breaking of ourselves. I think many of us can feel a bit lost after a relationship ends. So it's a lot to deal with, and I'm in that like flux at the moment of like not really knowing where I'm gonna go or what some stuff mean. I'm just kind of, I feel like if you're going through one now, you kind of relate in that. You kind of feel like you're in this like transition phase. Something's happened and you're trying to work your way through it. And I think these moments are very powerful. They can really guide us either into new areas that can be even more satisfying and fulfilling within ourselves than maybe we felt previously, but also we can go down other paths where we make our lives much harder. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. So previously I've posted videos on YouTube, back on posting them now, but I do run a blog as well. I'll post it down below. But if you have any thoughts on this, let me know below and let's get into the video. So as I said, breakups, not easy. Typically for me have been very hard actually. Not even like the breakup itself, although that is a painful experience, but I've almost like hurt myself more trying to get over it than I was when I was in it. And the reason for that, and the reason for this video, the one thing that I think I would advise anybody going through a breakup, and I'm currently advising myself, this video is like just as therapeutic for me as it might be for somebody else or yourself watching this. It's not to tie your worth to the relationship, be it the the label of being in a romantic partnership or the individual themselves. And what I mean by that is that I think it's quite natural to lose yourself a little bit in a relationship, or at least a lot of us have the tendency to lose ourselves. And in that we can forget our own independence and our own power. So much so that when a relationship ends, we can feel lost and we can almost regret and miss the relationship because a part of what we obtained worth from is now gone. And that level of, I guess, reliance on a relationship in order to feel good is going to differ to everybody in your belief systems. I remember distinctively growing up feeling like, because I hadn't had a relationship by like the age of 20, that meant that in some way I wasn't worthy because I couldn't sustain a long-term relationship with somebody. Like I just had this belief there that I needed to have a relationship because in some way not having one was making me feel unworthy. And your belief systems around what a relationship means to you is going to differ entirely from the next person. And there's some commonalities between like gender and sexuality that might come up. But I would say firstly have a think about what a relationship means to you. Are you somebody who has historically taken a lot of your self-worth, or found a lot of your self-worth in a relationship? And if so, it's really important that in a breakup you're tending to yourself, because what I have historically done previously, which has like delayed my getting over process, is that I have lost a relationship which I put a lot of my worth into. Like the relationship was there almost in a way to make me feel validated. Not almost, it was there to make me feel validated. That goes away for whatever reason, and then I fall into this like spiral of regret over maybe things that had happened in the relationship and ways I may have contributed towards it no longer being there. And then I desire that relationship back. But when we're coming from this state of like needing something in order to feel valued, we can almost miss like the whole big picture about what that relationship was. We're almost like looking for the label of the relationship or somebody's apparent choosing of us over the actual quality of that relationship. We can become like siloed into specific things that happened that we now massively regret. We can like berate ourselves over the fact that we couldn't sustain or hold a relationship. We may then start chasing somebody else who may have ended it with us. And I don't want to say make a fool out of ourselves, but we maybe put ourselves in positions where we aren't standing up enough for ourselves. And all of this together can really decrease just our view of ourselves. You know, when you're chasing after somebody who necessarily doesn't want to be with you, it's a losing game, and also it's just continued rejection. We're putting ourselves in positions where we are getting hurt. And I think when we are doing that to ourselves, there's like this subconscious message that goes back to us that says, I'll bring myself down to this level instead of raise myself to somebody on this level. When we're talking about regret, if you're regretting something that happened, yes, we need to hold ourselves completely accountable to the things that we might have done in order for us to learn and grow, and that is a part of like human nature to make mistakes. However, we have to be really careful that we're not just focusing in on one particular moment and forgetting the fact that there was this whole other relationship beyond that. Am I just wanting something back because I regret doing something and I just want to fix that? Or do I actually want something back because it was good for me, because I genuinely wanted it? Because if we're coming from that space of just looking to fix a feeling, then we're kind of doing it for the wrong reason. And all of this is to say, the reason for this video is that when we are in these spirals of like self-blame, of regret, when we are looking to feel worthy and we are looking for a relationship to give that to us, if we are in that state for a long time, if we continue down that path, it's going to be very hard for us to move on, because our worth is tied to whatever that situation is. Our worth is tied to that singular moment where we may have made a mistake. Our worth is tied to the label of having a relationship. Our worth is tied to the fact that it ended and somehow we think that we've done something bad and now that must mean that we can never hold a relationship. We have to take accountability for our role in the breakup, but we also have to build ourselves up as an individual while we're going through a breakup. And that means taking accountability, but that also means recognizing that you are human, and that means looking after yourself ultimately. I used to spend months and months just overthinking and ruminating specific things that happened in the past, essentially just digging myself a hole where I was devaluing myself as a person. And by the time that I was like, okay, this is enough, I need to stop doing this, I was in habits of overthinking and ruminating. I'd neglected maybe creative outlets or hobbies, and I just created this rut that then took even longer to get out of. And this isn't to say that we can't feel bad about ourselves. This isn't to say that, you know, we'll have moments when we'll have negative self-talk. When this breakup first happened for me, one of the things which I told myself I would do is that I took a couple of days off work firstly, and then I was like, I'm just going to spend 3 days in bed, just feeling my feelings, wallowing in the self-pity, just letting myself just go to that place where I can feel myself wanting to go. But I knew that I couldn't stay in that place forever. I knew after a certain amount of time I would then need to start what I've written about, and I'll post a link down below, reintegrating with life. And by that I mean showing up, starting to do things even if you don't feel like it, that you know are going to benefit you and are good for you. And that's part of the reason why I started doing videos again, because I was like, okay, I do writing anyway, but I used to really like making videos, so let's just, you know, you've got a lot of free time now, do something that you know that's going to make you feel good. if you want to go out and drink a lot of alcohol, like, you are more than welcome to do that, as I did also. But you have to be mindful that, okay, is this going to make me feel better afterwards? Am I just going to be put back into a space of self-pity and regret if I go out and drink? And it might be okay to do that from time to time, but I wouldn't recommend it on a weekly basis. And that's something I'm telling myself as well. So all this to say, I wanted to make this video today to just shed some light on some of the things that I'm thinking about as I'm moving through this breakup. And one of them, for sure, is just the importance of me not placing my worth in that relationship. Yes, it was great. Yes, I really enjoyed it. But just because I'm not in a relationship now does not mean that I need to think that I'm any less of a person. Like, that relationship did make me feel valued. It did make me feel loved. It made me feel good about myself. But I can also give that to myself. And I feel like many of us struggle with giving ourselves what we need and loving ourselves because we just never did it. We're just not practiced in it. Maybe we have jumped from relationship to relationship and that's been our source of self-worth. But at some point we have to begin that process. And I would say it's never too early to try that on, to start thinking, how can I spend my time in a way that's going to make me feel good, that's going to fill up my own cup? Because otherwise you will have this overt desire to go back to a relationship if it was the thing that was making you feel valued. And just because you have a desire to go back to a relationship does not mean that that relationship is a relationship you should go back to. If you're prioritizing your validation over the health and what that relationship was actually doing to benefit you, then we can really put ourselves in positions where we end up going back to something that ultimately wasn't good for us. Maybe we need to learn a lesson in how that relationship ended. And if we go back to it, we're just going to fall into the same patterns that we were in before. I don't think there's anything wrong with going back to somebody, as long as there has been a period of self-reflection and growth that enables you two to go back together in a way that hopefully will work better this time. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave it there. There's like, so in the building that I live in now, across the street, there's like another set of buildings, and I feel like somebody is watching me making a video, but I was like, I need to leave the blinds open so that I can get some light in here. But I think I've talked about everything I need to talk about. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, check out my blog because I write about this stuff in much more detail that you might like as well. Subscribe to the channel, and yeah, I'll see you very soon for another video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you soon.